Retirement, a time when we can finally step away from the grind of daily work, relax, and enjoy the fruits of our labor. For many, it's a well-deserved period of rest, travel, and time spent with family. But the path to a secure retirement often seems like an uphill battle. Amid all the uncertainty surrounding the economy, healthcare, and the ever-rising cost of living, one question looms large. How much money do you really need to retire comfortably? You might have heard the number $2 million thrown around as a golden benchmark. It sounds like the ultimate goal, the amount of savings that can help you live without worry in your golden years. It's a figure that many retirement calculators cite, often with the assumption that having $2 million in the bank would allow you to live comfortably, even luxuriously, throughout retirement. But here's the harsh reality. Very few people actually reach $2 million in retirement savings. In fact, less than 1% of Americans hit this lofty goal. Why is this the case? Why does a figure like $2 million seem so achievable on paper, yet so unattainable in practice? The truth lies in a combination of factors: personal financial habits, systemic economic challenges, and the sheer difficulty of saving in the current landscape. The high price of retirement. The first obstacle is the undeniable reality of rising costs. Everything seems to cost more today than it did 10, 20, or 30 years ago. Housing prices continue to rise, healthcare costs are skyrocketing, and even basic necessities like food and gas seem to get more expensive each year. Saving money is tough when your daily expenses are already putting pressure on your paycheck. The cost of healthcare is one of the largest and most significant factors in retirement savings. A 65-year-old couple retiring today is expected to spend over $300,000 on healthcare costs during retirement, and that number is expected to rise as life expectancy increases. Long-term care expenses can further complicate matters. The cost of a nursing home can range from $7,000 to $10,000 a month, depending on the region. These are the kinds of unexpected costs that can deplete savings quickly, especially if you don't have the resources to absorb them. Housing is another factor that plays into the retirement savings conundrum. The rise in home prices, particularly in metropolitan areas, has made it increasingly difficult for younger generations to buy homes. Even if you manage to buy a home, the upkeep, taxes, and mortgage payments can eat into your ability to save. The problem is especially evident for those who rent. Renters in many cities are paying more than half of their monthly income on rent, leaving little room to save for retirement. For many, this means that retirement is not just about saving for the future, but about dealing with the harsh financial realities of the present.
Why $2 million seems so out of reach? A common misconception is that reaching $2 million in savings is something that just requires a bit of diligence and a few good years of saving. In theory, if you set aside a few $100s a month and invest it, you should be able to reach $2 million by the time you retire. The problem with this theory is that it overlooks many real-life factors. For one, wages have largely stagnated for many workers, especially in the middle and lower income brackets. While the cost of living continues to rise, wages haven't kept pace, making it even harder to save. In fact, the gap between the rich and poor has only widened in recent decades, with the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. This creates an uneven playing field, where the rich have greater access to resources, investments, and savings opportunities, leaving most of the population to struggle. Moreover, the rise of the gig economy and non-traditional work arrangements has made it harder for many people to save consistently. Self-employed individuals, freelancers, and gig workers don't always have access to employer-sponsored retirement plans like 401ks, which means they must be more proactive about saving on their own. Unfortunately, many of these workers don't have the financial literacy or tools they need to manage their own retirement savings. And without the stability of a regular paycheck or a 401k match, they fall further behind in their retirement planning. The power of early and consistent saving. One of the biggest factors in achieving $2 million in retirement savings is the concept of time and how early you begin saving. Compound interest is often called the eighth wonder of the world because of its power to multiply wealth over time. The earlier you start saving, the more time your money has to grow. For example, if you start saving $500 a month at age 25 and continue until you retire at 65, assuming an average annual return of 7%, you could potentially amass over $1 million, but that's far from $2 million. If you wait until your 40s or 50s to start saving, it becomes much harder to reach the $2 million mark, even if you increase your contributions. Without starting early, there's simply not enough time for compound interest to work its magic. The reality of retirement savings in America. Let's take a look at the data. The median retirement savings for American families is disturbingly low. According to the Federal Reserve's latest survey, almost 40% of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement, and nearly half of all households have less than $100,000 saved. This means that a significant portion of the population is not on track to meet even basic retirement expenses, let alone $2 million.
Furthermore, the retirement savings gap becomes even more pronounced when you account for age. Those nearing retirement, ages 55 to 64, have, on average, around $200,000 saved, a far cry from the $2 million figure that's often presented as ideal. And while some Americans might have a sizable nest egg, the vast majority are still playing catch-up, struggling to make up for lost time or dealing with unexpected financial setbacks. Self-employed and gig economy workers, a growing challenge. Another group that faces an uphill battle in retirement savings is self-employed individuals and gig economy workers. With the rise of freelancing and short-term contract work, more people are choosing to work outside the traditional employer-employee model. While this offers more flexibility and autonomy, it also means these workers often lack access to employer-sponsored retirement plans, such as a 401k, that offer automatic contributions and potential matching funds. Without the infrastructure of a company-supported plan, gig economy workers must be highly disciplined in setting aside money for retirement, and unfortunately, many fall short. According to some estimates, nearly half of self-employed workers have no retirement savings at all. The lack of retirement planning tools and resources makes it much more difficult for them to save large amounts, and without the stability of a full-time job, they are often at a disadvantage when it comes to long-term financial security. So who does have $2 million in retirement savings? The truth is, not many people. While there are some high-income earners who have the ability to save large sums of money over the course of their careers, most people simply don't reach that $2 million mark. Those who do tend to be professionals in high-paying fields like medicine, law, finance, or technology. In addition, those who inherit wealth or receive large financial windfalls may be able to accumulate such a significant amount of money. But for the vast majority of workers, $2 million remains an elusive goal. The average worker doesn't have the same earning potential or access to resources as the wealthy, making it difficult to save enough for a luxurious retirement. What can you do instead? If you're not likely to hit $2 million in retirement savings, that doesn't mean all hope is lost. The key is to focus on what you can control. Start saving as early as possible, even if it's just a small amount. Take advantage of employer-sponsored retirement plans like 401ks, especially if your employer offers matching contributions. Diversify your investments and make sure your portfolio is working for you. Consider additional options like IRAs or SEP IRAs for self-employed individuals.